Hello students, welcome to the channel. In this video, we'll solve the second writing passage of the April 2019 US SAT, the Theatre Duke. When George II, Duke of a small German principality called Saxe-Meiningen, established a local theatre in 1866, he oversaw every aspect of each production. So here I need to decide the punctuation. So I'm saying when George II established a local theatre in 1866, he oversaw every aspect of the production. So this part, Duke of a small German principality called Saxe-Meiningen, this is the additional information. And we need to put additional information between a pair of commas or a pair of dashes. So we already have a starting dash here. So we'll have a closing dash after Saxe-Meiningen, which is option B, right? If I put the dash after established, then I'm basically misreading the additional information bit. So that is wrong. I can't have a comma as the closing punctuation because my starting punctuation was the dash. So C is wrong. And I definitely need a dash here, right, to indicate that this part between the dashes is additional. So the best answer is B. This high degree of involvement was unusual. While many principalities had court theatres, a duke would usually appoint a director to oversee the plays. George not only supervised the plays but also exercised full artistic control over them. Which choice most effectively sets up the information that follows in the sentence? So it's saying here that George was involved in the local theatre. He oversaw every aspect of each production. And while many principalities had court theatres, a duke would usually appoint a director to oversee the plays, right? So the way it's written makes sense because the degree of involvement that George brought to the theatre was unusual. So I like A. George had been interested in the arts from a young age. That can't be a good introduction because the next part is not talking about his age or how young he was when he started. At the time, Saxe-Meiningen was not a major cultural center. So again, this next part is not about Saxe-Meiningen. It's about George's involvement. The Duke maintained one of the best orchestras in Europe as well as an opera company. Okay, so these are other involvements that he had in the arts, but it doesn't have anything to do with theater. So the best answer is A. Directors at the time exerted little creative influence, giving actors free rein and reusing generic stage sets. In contrast, George advised actors, designed elaborate sets, and choreographed scenes, contributing to the development of greater stage realism and ultimately helping to establish the role of the modern director. George had recruited several little known actors when the theatre company visited Berlin to perform Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, captivating the metropolitan audience. Okay, which choice provides the best transition? So let's read a little further. When the curtain rose at 7 p.m. on May 1, 1874, the audience was immediately amazed by the production's elaborate sets and costumes, which George had modeled after Roman originals. Okay, so this kind of gives us an example of the work that George had put in. So the fact that he had recruited several little known actors doesn't really fit here because this has nothing to do with little known actors, right? This is describing the elaborate sets and costumes and how those captivated the audience. So I don't like A. It was the beginning of May. This is redundant because we know that the production debuted on May 1, so it's not B. George had to implement many staging changes. I don't think the point is of implementing staging changes. It's more to do with the kind of effort that he put into the production, so I don't like C. George's work as a director was on full display when the theater company visited Berlin to perform Julius Caesar. So this makes sense because it also follows from the previous paragraph, where we know that he was involved with every aspect of production. And then we are describing this one production that was mounted in Berlin. And so his work was on full display, option D. The audience was immediately amazed by the production's elaborate sets and costumes. So here I need to use the possessive for productions, but it has to be the singular possessive, right? Because I'm talking about one production, Julius Caesar. So the apostrophe has to be before S, not after S. So option A is wrong. Option B is wrong because this is not possessive. Okay, productions is correct, but then I don't want sets to be possessive because that is not. So the right answer would be option D, the productions, elaborate sets and costumes. Columns and decorative sculptures occupied the foreground of the stage. As audience members marveled at the authentic looking scenery, actors portraying Roman citizens streamed onto the stage, each bedecked in distinctive clothing, footwear, and with headdresses. The writer is considering revising the underlying portion to the following. Columns and decorative sculptures occupied the foreground of the stage, while a backdrop painted with images of columns and fig trees provided the optical illusion of depth. So I think I should make this revision because here I'm talking about the foreground of the stage. So it makes sense to talk about the backdrop as well, because that will complete the description of the stage set. So yes, I want to conclude it because it supports the claim in the previous sentence that the sets were modeled on Roman originals. No, this is not about Roman originals. This is about a description of the stage to give the illusion of depth. Yes, because it further illustrates the spectacle that impressed audience members. Yes, so this is a good answer. We could have also worked with something like, because it completes the description of the set design, but even B would work because it does give you an idea of why the audience were marveling at the production. Okay, actors portraying Roman citizens streamed onto the stage, each bedecked in distinctive clothing, footwear, and with headdresses. Now, this is parallel structure question, each bedecked in this, and in headdresses, right? So I could say in here and in here, but since I'm not saying in before footwear, I will not say in before headdresses also. So I would just say headdresses, each bedecked in distinctive clothing, footwear, and headdresses. I can't say with because with is a different preposition. So that goes against the parallel structure rule. Similarly, I can't say wearing because that introduces a verb which is not needed. And in headdresses, as I said, could be used only if footwear also use the preposition in. So the best answer is D. A trumpet then signaled the entrance of Caesar. His glittering toga and armor made him instantly distinguishable. The audience members were so delighted that they broke into applause before a word was even uttered. I could have believed myself back in ancient Rome, one audience member said afterward. Okay, so which choice most effectively combines the sentences? So a trumpet then signaled the entrance of Caesar. His glittering toga and armor made him instantly distinguishable. Okay, so a trumpet signaled so I'll just write that down. A trumpet signaled the entrance of Caesar. It was his glittering toga and armor that made him instantly distinguishable. Okay, I don't not like this, but I don't like it a lot either because this is not really connecting the sentences. It's kind of just giving an additional detail. And I'm not sure if I want to use a colon because the colon is used to kind of explain what goes before. And this is not exactly doing that. It's only telling me how distinguished he looked. So, okay, so we'll come back to this. A trumpet signaled the entrance of Caesar being instantly distinguishable. No, so this being instantly distinguishable is just odd. So this doesn't make sense. And in general, being is not something that we should choose on the writing section, because unless it is being used to indicate the present continuous of the verb is, it is normally something that can be gotten rid of in the sentence. Okay, a trumpet signaled the entrance of Caesar, who was instantly distinguishable by his glittering toga and armor. Yeah, so this is perfect because it connects the two sentences and is precise. So yeah, I prefer C to A. And a trumpet signaled the entrance of Caesar. Instantly, his glittering toga and armor became distinguishable. No, so this actually distorts the meaning because it's not his toga and armor that were distinguishable. It was Caesar who was made distinguishable by these accoutrements, right? So it's not D either. So the best answer is C. The venue George's company used was quite different from those used in Shakespeare's time. For example, he set the stage for the climactic murder of Caesar by arranging the crowd of conspiring Romans in a circle surrounding Caesar, thereby suggesting the inescapability of the ruler's fate. He also carefully orchestrated the chaotic moments following the murder when the crowd spins out of control. Which choice provides the best introduction to the paragraph? Okay, so the fact that the venue was quite different from the one used in Shakespeare's time, that's not really relevant because this part is talking about how the stage was used effectively to heighten the drama, right? So it's not A. Some audience members were less enthusiastic about the new style. No, so this paragraph is not about any criticism that was pointed out by audience members, so it's not B. George choreographed the play's action with equal intricacy. Yeah, so this is a good answer because in the previous paragraph, I spoke about how the way the actors were presented was impressive. And now I'm talking about the choreography and how that was equally intricate. The way the actors were playing their parts heightened the drama. So C is a good answer. The play emphasizes Caesar's influence over the Roman people. No, so this paragraph doesn't go into the history of Caesar, so it's not D. He also carefully orchestrated the chaotic moments following the murder when the crowd spins out of control. George split the crowd into smaller units. He assigned individual dialogue and stage positions, thereby making the scene more realistic. So the way it's written is wrong because this is an independent sentence and this is also an independent sentence. So you can't put a comma between them. B is fine. George split the crowd into smaller units, assigning individual dialogue and stage positions, right? So the second part is dependent on the first, so it can come after a comma. Okay, I can't have a semicolon because as I said, the second part would be dependent if it starts with assigning. So it's not C. And if I say and, I can't say assigning, right? I would have to say and he assigned individual dialogue and stage positions. So B is correct. One feels oneself present at the beginnings of a revolution. A theater critic wondered of this climactic scene. The same can perhaps be said of George's achievement overall. Okay, so this is an observation that the critic has made, right? The critic thinks that it was so effective that one felt one was at the beginning of a revolution. So I can't use the verb wonder. So that's not right. I can't use the verb presume. To presume is to make an assumption about something, and that's not what is happening here. And between sensed and observed, observed is better because that is what a critic does. A critic critiques an art form and gives you his or her opinion, right? while you can sense something without really articulating it. So D is better than C, observed. The play was a hit, launching the Duke's group on a 17-year tour, during which it delivered over 2,000 performances in venues throughout Europe, inspiring directors around the continent to design and execute more unified, detailed productions. The title George was dubbed with the theater Duke. Okay, so if I say inspiring directors around the continent, then it is George who inspired, right? So this part is a modifier. And so after the comma, I need to start with George. I cannot start with the title George or George's posthumous title or the theater Duke, right? None of those, because whenever I have a modifier, the part after the modifier should start with the subject the modifier refers to. So that should be D. The other thing is that dubbed will not use any preposition. So inspiring directors around the continent, George was posthumously dubbed the theater Duke. So he was called the theater Duke, and that was a title that was given to him after his death. So D. Okay, let's grade this. Question 12. BADDB, BADDB, and DCCBDD, DCCBDD. Okay, great. So we got all correct. Hope this exercise helped. I'll see you guys in a new video soon. Take care. Bye-bye.